we got to talk about some low-hanging fruit, I think, right? Well, it's probably not the right phrase. But anyways, there's plenty of videos out there, people talking about their rarest and most valuable games in their collection. And those are interesting videos, don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to making one myself. However, something I've not seen before is, let's talk about the least valuable games in my collection. What are the absolute cheapest titles that I own? And so I have every single one of my systems here. I've selected the cheapest game. We're going to go by system and talk about why I own them. For those who are either new here or unfamiliar, my philosophy with my collection is generally I don't add things to my collection that either aren't meaningful to me or I don't have an interest in playing or aren't interesting in and of themselves in some way. So if I pick up like a big bundle of games and, there's a NFL game in there, then I won't just add it to my collection if I don't have it, right? I don't keep stuff that I don't intend to play. Now, I have a lot of different reasons for why I intend to play stuff, and some of those are more ridiculous than others, and in some cases I have certain libraries where that rule kind of fudges. You'll see what I mean as we go. But yes, we have about 40-some systems to talk through. Here is the cheapest game I own for every single one of them. Starting with the PS1 at a hot $5.31. Cool Borders 3. I like snowboarding games. I'm a fan of Cool Borders ever since I played the Cool Borders demo on one of the Pizza Hut demo discs. I was hooked. And so, this takes me back to my early childhood, I guess, or my teenage years, playing some Cool Borders, or on the N64 playing some 1080 snowboarding. So happy to have that. Cool Borders 3, very good game. Next up here, this is a game I've never played, but I have friends that played it and they're really into it. For $4.50 on the PlayStation 2, we have SOCOM 2. Now I have some friends, and you can tell this one's looks like it's almost been chewed by a dog. Little crud in the corner there. I have some friends that played this online during its heyday, and I played a little bit at their house. And so I'm familiar with the online, and I get it, but I didn't ever play it myself. I didn't do any online gaming on the PS2. But my friend is very nostalgic for it, and he has actually said many times that the single player is pretty fun. You can have a good time with the single player campaigns. So I was like, you know what? Why the heck not? And I was actually kind of surprised. I own SOCOM 1, 2, and 3, but for some reason, 2 is the cheapest one. So, SOCOM 2. Next up here, PlayStation 3, a game I have not played yet, and there's probably a lot better ways to play it than this. But we have Assassin's Creed 2, $4.35. And this is a former GameStop copy. I only played the first Assassin's Creed, and everyone told me that 2 was really good, and it's one of those things where since 2010 or 2008 or whenever this game came out, 2009, I've been I'll play Assassin's Creed 2. I'll get around to that, and then I just still haven't. And I'm sure that there's modern ports or better versions on PS4 or PS5 that I could play, but I still have the PS3 copy sitting in my collection, waiting for that day. Maybe at some point this one will get replaced with a newer, nicer copy. But this was surprising to me. PlayStation 4, my cheapest game, coming in at a number that I forgot to put on my note sheet, so it hopefully appears in editing, but it's cheap. Kingdom Hearts 3. I bought this game brand new when it came out. Very excited for it. I have not played every Kingdom Hearts game, but I have played the main, the numbered series and some of the side games. I actually just recently finished Dream Drop Distance a week or two ago as of making this video. So this one has, if you're talking just value, spent $60 on this and it's now worth, again, but fun game. I'm not sure why this one is so ridiculously cheap. I'm not surprised to see that it dropped way down. Even Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 on PS2 are pretty cheap, but pennies on the dollar? Come on, Kingdom Hearts deserves better. Look at that cover art. And next and last for the main PlayStation console line, we have at $8.98, Godfall. I was hyped when the PS5 came out. I picked this one up in my wave of hype. Admittedly, I should have sold it. So I played, it is opened. I played a bit of it. I think I have like one trophy. I think I played probably 3 hours of it, 2-3 hours. It was fun. It was a very pretty game, but it just didn't hook me the way I wanted it to, or I don't know. You know, between Astro's Playroom and Demon Souls and all that, there's just more to get excited about than Godfall. But I was so hyped on the PS5 launch, I couldn't resist. And so I should have sold this one back a couple weeks after I played it and made like $40 back, and then just, if I ever want to play it again, rebuy it. But I didn't, and now it sits here. One that I would not hate to go back to, though. Again, Godfall's not a bad game. It's just a game. It's just a video game that you play. It's very much a game. All right, next up here, PlayStation Portable at $4.96. All these prices, by the way, are courtesy of price charting, which I know has its flaws. I don't really trust it as a universal resource, but when I'm doing the research for a video like this, it's just easier than like eBaying every single one and averaging the sales price. I'm just trusting price charting on this for now. We have SOCOM Fireteam Bravo. Again, just shy of $5. This is an awesome game, honestly. So I was talking about how I never played SOCOM 2, but I played a lot of Fireteam Bravo on PSP multiplayer. I had like a wired headset that was like a single earbud, and then had a little microphone on the side, and you could talk to people while playing PSP. And the idea of playing like handheld multiplayer was very cool at the time. I used to go to my friend's house. This was like late high school, early college. I would go to his house. I was working second and third shift, so I was up all night, and we would stay up till like 2-3 in the morning watching music videos or like game shows or whatever, and play on our PSPs. We play a lot of this, and we play a lot of Untold Legends. So really cool game, and worth checking out. I mean, obviously you can't do the multiplayer anymore, but it's better than you'd think. And then finally on PlayStation for the Vita at $9.28. The cheapest game I own is Little Deviants. Probably one of the cheapest games in the entire system. A $10 Vita game is kind of unheard of these days. I mean, it is what it is. It's a launch game. It's sort of there to demo the features of the Vita. Although, honestly, if you want like a showpiece for what the Vita can do, you should go buy Tearaway, because Tearaway is incredible. But, you know, Little Deviants is what it is. This is one of those, I ask myself this question about a lot of games. Like, is Little Deviants, is this anyone's favorite video game? Is there a single person out there that is like, Little Deviants is the best thing I ever played? Or, I am the most nostalgic about Little Deviants. I was the perfect age. You know, I was 12 years old when I got my Vita. My only game was Little Deviants. That's what I'm nostalgic for. That person must exist, right? If that's you, my God, please leave a comment. I want to be your friend. I want to be your friend. All right, we're moving into NES now. And this one may or may not be surprising. For folks that don't know, for all retro systems, with one exception really, I collect my stuff complete in box. And so that's sort of like the cheapest game I own is still probably more expensive than the average game, because cardboard is expensive on old systems. But cheapest on NES at $5.50, Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt. And I do have the manual. That probably bumps up the price a little bit. I did not factor that into the cost, but it is what it is. The reason this is the cheapest is because, again, this is the only game not in an original box, because its original box was the system box that it came in. There's no outer box for this. There is for just the original Mario Bros., but not for the double pack like this. And so without a complete in-box NES, which I do not own, this is the one. And classic game. I mean, obviously, is there someone out there in 2023 like doing like a new fresh review of Mario Bros? Honestly, that'd be kind of sick. I would watch that. All right. Very expensive. There's some systems in here where I just feel bad. We're getting into a few of them, actually. First up, Super Nintendo. And if you watched my last video, it was a collection of my entire complete in-box Super Nintendo collection. Go check that video out. It was pretty good. And two, you probably could have guessed this based on that video. I'll leave a link somewhere or in the description to that video. But at $35.55, my complete copy of Wing Commander is the cheapest Super Nintendo game that I own. As I said in that video, I have not played Wing Commander. I have wanted to for a long time. This is a game that's been in my collection for years and years and years, since like the early 2000s. And I just never... Something about Wing Commander is like intimidating to me. I want to get into it, but it's like, am I too dumb to get into Wing Commander? I don't know. But yeah, I do want to check it out at some point. Great cover art there. And again, sad when your cheapest game is $35.55. That's a rough system to collect for. All right, before we grab this next one, we're going to take a little coffee break. While I'm sipping the coffee, you can like and subscribe. Thank you for that, and thank you for the coffee. All right. Next up here, I was surprised by this. The cheapest Virtual Boy game that I own, and I own a complete US Virtual Boy collection. So the cheapest Virtual Boy game to buy at all in its box right now is apparently at $46.25. Red Alarm. This was, in my mind, this was a very like middle of the pack Virtual Boy game. I thought for sure it would be Virtual Baseball that would be the cheapest one. Now you could argue the cheapest one is probably Mario Tennis, because again, Mario Tennis didn't come with a true retail outer box. It only had it was the pack-in, so it came with the Virtual Boy box. But my copy has like the for display only Blockbuster box, which is pretty collectible, so that didn't qualify. Yeah, Red Alarm, kind of a Star Fox style game. Very, very cool. I love these Virtual Boy boxes. I love the like red and blue look to them. And yeah, there you go. The most affordable Virtual Boy game at $45. Crazy. This is another system I was surprised by. Nintendo 64, the cheapest game I have, is at $29.99. So that's like a pretty round price. It's probably not exact. But according to price charting, at $29.99, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. And this is a great game. I used to rent this game all the time before I finally owned my own copy. I have played this with friends of mine, and every time I play with him, I absolutely destroy him because he's terrible at this game and I'm really good at it. Yeah. Cheapest one. I have other Star Wars games, Empire Strikes Back, and some stuff like 1080 snowboarding that I assumed would be a little bit cheaper, but no. In my brain, the default like cheap N64 game price is $20, but apparently it's more like $30 these days. So yeah, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. And okay, these prices are not factoring in condition. Like there's a crease on the top of my box. I have some well-loved games, but still. Great game. Happy to own it. As you can tell, so far, maybe this is a compelling argument for being able to somewhat affordably collect. We've mostly talked about good games or fun games at this point. It hasn't just been chaff, right? And most of them, with the exception of the last couple, pretty dang affordable. All right, at $12.51, my cheapest GameCube game is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. I had this game during the GameCube's lifetime. I don't know why I bought it on GameCube, if I'm being honest. I played, obviously, Tony Hawk 1 and 2 on PS1. Played Tony Hawk 3 on PS2. Tony Hawk is a PlayStation franchise, but for whatever reason, I don't know if this was like a GameStop/EB buy two get one at some point or what. But I went with Tony Hawk 4 on the GameCube, and, this is kind of where I started to fall off Tony Hawk. This is still a really good game. And you can play as Boba Fett and do your jump jets and stuff, and that's fun. But especially the games immediately following this, is when I started to fall off of Tony Hawk. This was great, but it was like you could tell that this was getting maybe a little stale for people. And then all their attempts to mix things up in the future did not do it for me. So great game. I was actually pretty surprised that this is $12.51. But GameCube is kind of having its moment right now, so there's probably nothing cheap on GameCube, as demonstrated. Okay, my cheapest game on Nintendo Wii. Now, you think of Wii as like a complete shovelware console, but according to price charting, my cheapest Wii game at $4.62, Epic Mickey. Now, this is a dirt cheap game. You can get it everywhere. This is one that I've been meaning to play for a long time. It's a like platformer, a 3D platformer. This game had so much hype when it was first released. I cannot tell you. If you were not there, Epic Mickey was like it was a big deal when it was going to come out. And then it came and everyone was like, oh, it's just like a fine Disney game. At least that's what I've heard. But there's a couple friends of mine, Ray Louie on YouTube and others that have, I think, played this and have said, yeah, okay. And it just seems like something I would enjoy. So at some point we'll get around to Epic Mickey. I have not yet, but it is the cheapest game I have on Wii. I'm sure there's some that were close, but very cheap. Now this surprised me. $12.74. So pretty close to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. On the Wii U, my cheapest game is Mario Kart 8. I thought Nintendo Land would be the cheapest, but I don't know. Mario Kart 8. Now, it doesn't surprise me in that, like, this is not the version of Mario Kart 8 anyone is playing anymore. And so it is, like, sort of obsolete in pretty much every way. But, you know, classic game. Still great on the Wii U. If you only have a Wii U and not a Switch, like, this is still totally worth playing. And, yeah, it's gone down quite a bit in price. $12 is crazy cheap for a Mario Kart game. Like, that, strike now if you're looking for Wii U stuff. On Switch, the modern console, the cheapest game, I knew this would be the answer here. Sushi Striker. So, for some reason or another, this game is like so dirt cheap. The 3DS version is dirt cheap and the Switch version is dirt cheap. And I believe it's a Nintendo published game. It's just, something about it just got deep discounted instantly, despite it being a relatively good game. You know what this feels like? I'm not saying that this is as good at it as it, but it feels like Elite Beat Agents, where Elite Beat Agents is an incredible game on DS, but for some reason during its lifetime, it like instantly slammed down to like a $5 game and just stayed there for a long time. Like no one was into it. Something similar happened with Rhythm Heaven Fever before it had its moment again. So this might be the modern rhythmy, done dirty game. So, you know, maybe consider picking up a copy of Sushi Striker sooner rather than later. I mean, you can do it for only $8.99. All right, Game Boy Original at $19.97, which is pretty affordable for a complete original Game Boy game. Quirk. I was surprised because this just seems like it'd be a little bit more expensive. This is a Sokoban style block pushing puzzler, but it's really good. I played this on stream for a long time. I've played it off stream. It gets difficult. Like it's not easy, but somehow this copy, $20. I'd say, yeah, pick it up. That's a good one. All right. My Game Boy Color and my Game Boy Advance are interesting picks. At $14.05, which, put a pin in that. On Game Boy Color, we have Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Now look at that, $4.95 discount sticker there. So this game, when I first started dating my lovely fiance, she and I sort of merged our game collections, and she wasn't like a huge game collector, but she had played games all her life. She had Game Boy systems, and she had Game Boy Color, and one of the games she had that she had played and was a little nostalgic about is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And so even though this is not the type of game I would normally keep, we hung on to it, and I ended up getting a box for it. So we have a nice complete copy. Look at that young Regis there saying, hey, what's up? We've played through this game. We beat this game. It is what you'd expect it to be. And then on Game Boy Advance, $5.60. Now that is dirt cheap for a GBA game. In its box, American Idol. Now I know what you're thinking. Similar to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you're thinking it's the same story. No. I went out of my way to buy American Idol. And you know why? You need to watch footage of this game, okay? This is one of the funniest games that you will ever play. Specifically when you start messing up. It's a rhythm game. But when the character makes mistakes, oh my god. The first time I saw it, I instantly knew I had to own it. In fact, maybe in editing, I'll throw some in here for you. But yes, American Idol. Totally worth having for the laugh in your collection. And very affordable to add. Worth it. Alright. Moving on to DS. This game has been so cheap forever. Right now it's claiming to be $4.63. This is... Man, I remember this game being so hype when it came out. Scribblenauts. Another one where if you were there when Scribblenauts released, this was a big deal. A game where you could write anything and solve everything your own way, where you could solve puzzles based on only the limits of your mind. That turned out not to be quite true. There were some limits in place because, they can only have so many unique graphics and sprites in the game. But Scribblenauts was cool. I did not expect this game to become like a franchise with like a dozen entries, but it is a very fun game and has been dirt cheap forever. Probably because there's complete editions, sequels, and stuff on future consoles. You can get this everywhere, and yeah, is good though. Again, this is I bought this copy brand new. It was probably what, $30, $40, whatever the price of a brand new DS game was. All right, 3DS, $5.61. No surprise here. Codename Steam. This is one of the cheapest 3DS games out there that's not like Imagine Babies or Pets Island. But yes, the weird kind of Valkyria Chronicles alike that Nintendo put out. Probably not one that's going to get a sequel based on the critical reception. But it is an interesting footnote, I think, in Nintendo's history, and it's going to go down as one of those, moments for a long, long time. They're like, yeah, what if you played as historical figures in a weird Valkyria Chronicles RTS? Sounds good. Alrighty here, we are now on to Master System. My cheapest game at $12.97, Global Defense. This is a fun shoot 'em up game. I like shoot 'em ups. And this one is pretty good. It's hard. I don't think I've ever been able to beat it. But it's quite an enjoyable time. If you have a Master System, I would definitely recommend picking it up. And yeah, very affordable. So on Genesis at $8.54. Now, I don't know if that's for this variant, but I don't think the variant makes a difference here. We have the boxed Zoop, the cardboard box variant, as you can see. Zoop is, I don't even know how to describe it other than to say Zoop is a puzzle game and it's weird and I'm nostalgic for it. I had this as a kid. I don't think I ever really knew how to play it as a kid, but Zoop is still pretty cool. It's very 90s. Just look at that logo, man. Look at that box art. To just have 90s font as your entire box art. I am so happy. So happy, even though this probably came out in the 80s. Oh, no, it came out in 95. I didn't know if the Genesis version was the original version of Zoop. But, yes. Cheap, fun puzzle game. It's not just filler and lots. It's actually pretty good. All right, we're moving on to Sega CD. $19.32. Jurassic Park. I have not played this one, although I have heard half decent things. I love the look of the screenshots. It just seems like a gorgeous game. And I don't know. I think it could be a good time. This is one where it was like kind of right on the border of. I think I got this in a lot with some other games, and I was like, I'd like to check out Jurassic Park and decide for myself, and I just haven't done that yet. So that one is one that we will check out in the future. On 32X, coming in at $26.40, we have Star Wars Arcade, probably one of the cheaper games on the 32X in general. Since this is such a collectible library, I think that there's not much left at the bottom of that. But, I mean, this is sort of one of the classic 32X games. Star Wars Arcade is awesome. Very cool to play however you can. And I think of it as just like a defining piece for the 32. You think of the 32X, you just think of this game. So, love that cover art with like the Vader helmet in the background. Ugh. All right. And then we move on to Sega Saturn, which surprisingly I have a game that is only $16.99, and it is Arcade's Greatest Hits Volume 1. And there's some fun to be had on this one, although if I'm being honest, the primary reason that I own it is right there, Tempest. I'm a fan of Tempest. Tempest on the Sega Saturn just sounded like a good time. And, it's not a bad thing to be able to play Missile Command. Centipede is a game I played a lot as a kid. I have the Game Boy version of that. Super Breakout, so there's some fun stuff on here. I think this is also on like PS1 and stuff, so you don't have to have the Saturn version. I'm sure it's much cheaper on PS1. But cool to have. And, yeah. Anytime you want to play a little Tempest on the Saturn, now you know where to go. And finally, the Dreamcast, the final console produced by Sega. We have Sega GT. Another sort of, I think, classic, emblematic of the system game. I'm not usually like a big driving fan. I'm more of a kart racer guy than like sim racer or even like arcade racers. But the Dreamcast is kind of the Dreamcast is kind of the exception. I feel like racing games in the Dreamcast are just kind of like peanut butter and jelly, right? So, Sega GT, fairly affordable one for you to grab, and you're going to have some fun with it. All right, moving on to the final Sega console. We have the Sega Game Gear at $20.79. Sonic 2. I cannot believe that this game is $20. This has been forever the world's cheapest game. I'm sure the cart is still only a few dollars, but like $20. Finally, we've hit the point where there's nothing left on the Game Gear that is like super affordable. Any of the cheap parts of that system are just going away, tragically. But Sonic 2, not if I'm recalling, not the best of the Sonic games on the Game Gear. But fun. I think I like the first one more. I'd have to double check my notes, honestly. All right, Xbox time. First up at $3.99. Not surprising. There's a lot of cheap stuff on original Xbox. Amped Snowboarding. This is another one that is my fiance's an Amped fan. She has brought this into my life. I grew up more snowboard kids, 1080, cool borders. Never really got, maybe a little SSX tricky. Never got into Amped so much, but I have played it with her since. And it is a fun game. Very enjoyable. Very, it's just, I don't know. I love the extreme sports game era. It kind of lines up exactly with when I was in like middle and high school. So makes me nostalgic for that time period. And Amped is a fun game. Only $4, probably cheaper, honestly. That probably includes shipping. All right, next up here we have 360, $4.03. Titanfall. Now this is factory sealed. I did not include it as a sealed price because when I pulled this off the shelf, I was surprised to learn that it was sealed. Now I remember where I got this. It was being sold for $5 at some point on the Xbox store, and I bought it from them. This was years and years and years ago when the 360 was like the console that was currently active. But I'm confused because I played Titanfall. I played a good amount of Titanfall. And yet this copy is sealed. So I don't know if I got it as like a Games with Gold or if I had a separate copy at some point. But somehow I've played a bunch of Titanfall and yet my copy is factory sealed. Good game, although this is multiplayer only and now it's long gone. But Titanfall 2, My God, you should go play Titanfall 2. That game rules. That's probably one of the cheapest PS4 games that I own too, but Kingdom Hearts beat it. All right. Xbox One, $5.27. That blew me away. Sunset Overdrive. Wow, this game got cheap. For a long time, this was like the one Xbox One exclusive. Now, there's some people out there, you know, I support you Rise Son of Rome fans or you Recore fans, but Sunset Overdrive was sort of like the one thing that people pointed to, you know, an Insomniac game. Got kind of a Jet Set-y energy. Not really, but you know, you're grinding, okay? And yeah, this has just gotten so cheap. I assume that's because it's on Game Pass. I think it must be on Game Pass, right? And so a lot of the Game Pass games, their physical copies drop to nothing because there's just like no interest in them anymore. But next up, in fact, this is the only system that I collect loose for where collecting loose is reasonable. And that's just because I don't really collect for this system. All my games basically came in 2 lots. It is also the cheapest game that I own. So by math, this is the cheapest video game in my collection. This is not going to be a surprise to any of you. On the 2600, we have Combat. Just a loose copy of Combat. One of the most common games, dirt cheap. It's not even probably a $2 game. It's probably like a 50-cent game, but you have to pay for the shipping to get it to you. I got this. One of the very first eBay auctions I ever won was for like 15 Atari 2600 games, and I won it on a bid of like $4.25. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just excited to bid on something because eBay was like kind of newish to me. And I got them. It's like 13 games, and it's all the most common games. You know, it's like Combat, Circus Atari, stuff like that. I've kept them all these years, although I'm not much of an Atari guy. There are cool games on the Atari, but I don't know. It just doesn't excite me. I wish it did, but it just doesn't. But $1.98, 2600 Atari. I know what you're thinking. Hey, you skipped Series X. We didn't do Series X. It's because I don't own a single physical game for my Series X. I only use it for Game Pass. Isn't that wild? All right. $41 flat on the Atari Jaguar. Cybermorph is my cheapest game. This game is weird. It's like this kind of like open world ship combat kind of game. Kind of like the free range levels of Star Fox, or maybe like Star Wars Rogue Squadron or something, but like much older and much weirder. Kind of hard to understand what you need to do, but still very fun. I don't know. Jaguar has its own sort of like janky charm that I just can't resist. And usually you see this one just included with consoles, and it's usually loose, but I was happy to get the boxed version of it. And yeah, $41. All right, next up. The Atari Lynx. This one also kind of bummed me out because I haven't checked in on Lynx prices for a while. $9.99. We have Tournament Cyberball. Lynx used to be like the affordable system to collect. You used to be able to get so much new old stock Lynx stuff, and I'm sure that some of it's still out there, but so much of it used to be like $3, $5. So for my cheapest game to be $10, and it only went up from there, I was like, oh man. The Lynx has kind of had a little bit of its moment. I like the Lynx quite a bit. I think it's a charming system. I don't play it as much as I'd like to because my Lynx console has, like, its capacitors are going out, and so it has, like, screen bleed that just gets worse the longer you play it. But I have pre-ordered the Analog Pocket adapter for Lynx, and so once that happens, I'll definitely dig deep into my library. But yeah, this is like a sportsy, futuristic football game. Lynx is one of those systems where, and this is actually true. This is going to be true for a lot of the systems that are left, kind of like the miscellaneous systems. That I sort of collect anything because the system is novel enough. It's interesting that if I find a game for cheap, I'll add it to my library because the libraries are kind of small and it's just, I don't know, they're fascinating to me. I said that I only want to collect games that are either I'm interested in playing or are interesting in general. And for certain systems, I think their entire library sort of constitutes interesting in general. And the Lynx is one of them. Next up here, definitely not going to surprise any TurboGrafx fans, but at $14.44, my cheapest game is Keith Courage in Alpha Zones. There's nothing on the back to show you for this one. A very solid, like 3 out of 5 game. Totally fine. This is not only everyone's most affordable game on TurboGrafx. For a lot of people, this is their only TurboGrafx game, because once you go up from here, boy, does it go up fast. There's not much of a bottom. That cozy $15 range sure dries up. So you'll probably get this with your TurboGrafx 16 if you don't already have one, so you'll have it. The Vectrex, $38.11. We have Blitz. Vectrex is a system that I like the links. I will buy every game for. There's no, like, it's not dependent on genre or necessarily gameplay, because the Vectrex in and of itself is so cool that even something like this, like a football game, is interesting enough to me to want to check out. And I get them all complete in box. I get them with their overlays. So that $30-something, $38.11. This is probably one of the more affordable games on Vectrex. This system has just gone crazy. Vectrex consoles are ridiculous at this point. A lot of the games are really expensive. I feel bad because it's so unique. There's nothing like the Vectrex, but it is what it is. All right. Now again, this is all like the offshoot systems at this point. A lot of these are stuff that people don't really collect for or may not even care about, but there's some interesting stuff in here, so I'd say if you're still here, stick around. My throat's getting dry. All right. On 3DO at $17.80, my cheapest game is Twisted the Game Show. I love just the energy of this game. It's so 3DO. You know, it's like janky FMV. It's like janky game show. It's just every type of corny and every type of awkward that makes the 3DO so appealing. 3DO is an incredible, cool system. I love the 3DO. It's like uncharted territory, this system. There's a lot to love there. But Twisted the Game Show, I think, is sort of like a kind of poster child for what people don't love about the 3DO. And that makes me all here for it. All right. Next up here, we have the Nuon. My cheapest game being Ballistic. If you know anything about the Nuon, that will not surprise you. This is definitely the cheapest game on the system. It only gets more expensive and harder to collect from here. This is sort of like a puzzle game. There's also ports to this on, I think, PS1 and Game Boy Color and stuff, but, you know, kind of a Montezuma's Revenge sort of game. And I don't remember which one came first, actually. I think this one did, although I'm not sure. I love the Nuon. I'm a Nuon defender, and you should be too. All right. Everyone's favorite handheld, the Game.com by Tiger, at $8.34. Fighters Megamix, another system kind of like the Lynx where there's a lot of new old stock out there, although it has become more collectible in recent years. Not anyone's favorite system. It's a system known for having a lot of very big licenses for no good reason. Like, I guess it's because, no, it is for a good reason. That's a lie. It's because Tiger already had all the licenses from all of their LCD handhelds. And so even though the Gamecom is such a janky system, it has Sonic games, Resident Evil games, like everything. Mortal Kombat, Fighters Mag, all sorts of stuff. So the Game.com is fascinating to me. I'm not going to say it's the best system out there, but man, is it the most system out there. All right, next up, this of any system, this bummed me out the most. Oh man, this was disappointing to see. $93.23 is my cheapest Neo Geo Pocket Color game for Metal Slug First Mission. And it's not like I only own a couple games. I own like 7 or 8 Neo Geo Pocket Color games. This system has just become so absurd to buy for. Everything is $100 plus, basically. Because all the common games are desirable enough to be 100, 150. And then all the random ones that nobody cares about, like slots and stuff, people want for complete collections. So there's like nothing left at the bottom end of Neo Geo, which is a shame because it's such an awesome handheld.
Very enjoyable, clicky little stick, and a lot of cool games on there. Metal Slug First Mission and Second Mission are both really good. Definitely, if you have a Neo Geo Pocket Color, maybe go loose and check it out, because again, for the bottom end, that is disappointing to see. $93. Whew. Okay, we have on the Wonder Swan around $30-ish. Now, this isn't, I couldn't find like an exact price, so we're going to call it 30-ish. We have What's Up B Street Dancer. So it's Wasabi, but it's like, I think it's WAS or WAZ up arrow B. So this is like a sort of like a pop group. That this game itself, though, if you look, I don't know if my camera will focus on it up there, but probably not. It is a DDR style game. So it is just like music rhythm responding to various songs from this group. And, oh yeah, there it is. There it is. Was Up B. Yeah, you can see it right there. WZ up arrow B is the name of the group. And yeah, so if you like music rhythm games, this is a pretty affordable one on the Wonder Swan. All black and white, so it's an original Wonder Swan game, but it's pretty cool. I played it many times. I'm a sucker for rhythm games. All right, down to our last few. $7.52 on the N-Gage FIFA Soccer 2004. Exciting, huh? N-Gage is one of the few systems that I'm sort of loosely going for a full set. I probably have like 65-70% of the library already, and it's just kind of whenever I see a N-Gage game that I don't already have, I'll pick it up. And so inevitably I was going to have some sports game that no one wants to play on. N-Gage is one of the cheapest ones. I underpaid $5, and it's a $7.52 game. I'm rich. Now think, if you bought thousands of copies of FIFA Soccer 2000 at $5 and you sold them all for $7.50, I mean, that's infinite money glitch. You could have as much money as you're willing to sell copies of that game. All right. Our final game here is the Gizmondo. $40-ish. I don't know the exact price. I don't think this is tracked on price charting. And it's sort of like a what people are willing to pay for it. So I'm calling it 40-ish. Sticky balls. This is sort of the most popular Gizmondo game. For as much as an oxymoron that popular Gizmondo game is, if there is one, it's Sticky Balls. Not my favorite Gizmondo game. That goes to Toy Golf. But an interesting little puzzler. The Gizmondo is awesome. If you've never seen or heard of the Gizmondo, you should look up some details on it, because it's a cool handheld. It's hard to collect for, though, so do not recommend. And that is it. That is my last one. There's a couple systems that I left out for various reasons. Like I didn't grab a Tapwave Zodiac game, or I only have one R-Zone game. So, but by and large, that is the cheapest game I own on every single console that I have, and every single handheld that I have. So I would love to know, like, what are some of your favorite cheap, good games that are worth playing? Because I think what I wanted to show here, and I think I did, is that for dirt cheap, you can get a lot of fun stuff. It's very affordable. Like, if that was your entire library of games, it'd be weird. How did you get one game on every system only? But you could have a lot of fun with that library. Some of which is, a lot of which is $5 and under. So that's going to do it for me. Thanks for hanging out. We'll chat again soon. Peace.